You're scrolling Zillow at 2 a.m., dreaming about that paradise-found beachfront property. It looks like the perfect escape, but that dream, it's actually a financial death trap. While everyone is distracted by interest rates, a bigger crisis is looming. The ocean is coming, and it's not asking for permission. 2030 is just 6 years away. By then, some of America's most desirable cities won't look like paradise, they'll look like a flooded Venice. Minus the gondolas. We're talking tripled insurance premiums and downtown streets flooding on sunny days. Yet, people keep buying because no one thinks their home has an expiration date. I'm here to read the fine print for you. Today, we're counting down 10 American cities racing toward underwater status by 2030, and trust me, you are not ready for number one. It's the city everyone thinks is the future. Spoiler, the future is wet. Let's break it down. Number 10, Savannah. Georgia Savannah looks like someone designed a city specifically to sell sweet tea and southern romance novels. Spanish moss draping over oak trees. Historic squares that make you want to speak in a softer accent. Homes with porches so wide you could host a wedding on them. The median home price sits around $350,000, which sounds almost reasonable for this much charm. Tourism is booming. The food scene is incredible. HGTV has filmed approximately 47 shows here. It's the kind of place where you imagine yourself retiring early, writing a memoir, and learning to make biscuits from scratch. Savannah sells you on history, beauty, and that slow southern pace. Real estate agents love words like timeless and irreplaceable character. What they don't mention is that timeless is about to meet title. Here's where your sweet tea turns bitter. Savannah sits at an average elevation of just 42 feet, but much of the historic downtown and surrounding areas are significantly lower. Sea levels along the Georgia coast are rising at approximately 3 millimeters per year. That's about a foot every century, but the acceleration is what's terrifying. An OA projects up to the feet of rise by 2060, but intermediate scenarios suggest we'll see major impacts by 2030. The city already experiences regular tidal flooding during king tides and storms. Flood insurance premiums in high-risk zones have increased by 100 to 400% over the past decade. Some homeowners are paying $5,000, $15,000 annually just for flood coverage on a $350,000 house. That's not a mortgage payment, that's a second mortgage just to protect the first one. A Reddit user captured it perfectly. Bought a historic home in Savannah because I wanted charm. Now, I have charm, mold, and a kayak in my garage for just in case. My insurance company sends me Christmas cards because I'm basically funding their holiday party. Let's talk about what else comes with your Savannah dream home. Humidity that makes your glasses fog the moment you step outside. Mosquitoes that have apparently been hitting the gym. Summer heat that starts in April and doesn't quit until Halloween. And so many tourists clogging every square while you're just trying to get to the grocery store. Also, gnats. Savannah has gnats that will fly directly into your mouth mid-sentence like they've got something important to say. It's 2029. You're standing on your gorgeous wraparound porch, the one you spent $40,000 restoring. The morning news mentions another sunny day flood downtown. Your street didn't flood this time, but your neighbors did. Would you buy a historic home in Savannah knowing the Spanish moss might soon be collecting salt water instead of morning dew? Number 9. Atlantic City, New Jersey. Atlantic City has been trying to reinvent itself for decades. Casinos, beaches, boardwalks, the Jersey Shore, but make it classy. Median home prices hover around $175,000, making it one of the more affordable coastal options in the Northeast. Real estate listings love to emphasize the investment potential and casino revenue, and beach lifestyle at a fraction of the Hamptons price. It sounds like a gamble worth taking. Pun absolutely intended. Atlantic City is essentially a sandbar with ambition. The city sits on a barrier island with an average elevation of about 8 feet above sea level. That's not a typo. 8 feet. Some neighborhoods are lower. Sea levels along the New Jersey coast are rising at 4 millimeters per year faster than the global average because of land subsidence. The ground is literally sinking while the water rises. And OAS intermediate projections show 1.5 feet of rise by 2050. But Atlantic City will feel impacts much sooner because it barely has room for a regular high tide, let alone an enhanced one. After Hurricane Sandy in 2012, flood insurance rates in Atlantic City exploded. We're talking premiums jumping from $2,000 to $10,000 or more for properties in flood zones. And here's the fun part. Most of Atlantic City is in a flood zone. FEMA's updated maps basically colored the whole island, and good luck with that blue. One Reddit commenter wrote, "I own a rental property in AC. The tenants love the beach access. I love the quarterly panic attacks when I check the weather forecast. My insurance agent knows me by first name, credit score, and blood type." Beyond the water situation, Atlantic City has other challenges. The casino industry has been declining for years. Crime rates are significantly above the national average. Property taxes in New Jersey are already astronomical, and you're adding flood insurance on top. Half the boardwalk shops are empty. The off-season is depressing. And the beach is nice until you realize the ocean is planning a hostile takeover. Also, the seagulls. They will steal food from your hands with the confidence of someone who knows you can't afford to rebuild. Imagine it's 2028. You bought a cozy beach cottage for $160,000, thinking you'd flip it in a few years. A nor'easter hits. Nothing catastrophic, just a regular storm that would have been manageable a decade ago. But the surge pushes water 3 feet into your first floor. Would you roll the dice on Atlantic City real estate, knowing the house always wins and the house is the Atlantic Ocean? Number 8. Annapolis, Maryland. Annapolis is postcard perfect. Sailing culture, the Naval Academy, colonial architecture that makes you feel like you should be wearing a tricorn hat. Median home prices run around for $185,000, with waterfront properties easily hitting 7 figures. You're not just buying a house, you're buying into prestige, history, and weekend regattas. The kind of place where people casually mention they keep a boat. The Chesapeake Bay lifestyle sells itself. Annapolis is already one of the most flood-prone cities in America. It's getting worse fast. The city experienced 63 days of tidal flooding in 2019 alone. That's not during hurricanes, that's just regular tides doing regular tide things on 63 separate days. Sea level rise in the Chesapeake Bay region is accelerating at approximately 3.7 millimeters per year, but land subsidence adds another 1 to 2 millimeters annually. Combined, Annapolis is essentially sinking while drowning. Downtown Annapolis floods so regularly that local businesses have started treating it like weather. Oh, it's a flood day. Move the inventory upstairs. The city has installed floodgates, raised some streets, and spent millions on adaptation, but they're fighting physics with politics and budgets. Flood insurance costs in Annapolis have risen 150 to 300% since 2010, with some waterfront properties paying $8,000, $20,000 annually. That million-dollar waterfront home, add $20,000 per year just to insure it against the water it overlooks. Found this gem on Reddit. I live in Annapolis. My car is flooded twice. Not in hurricanes, just in regular high tide, but the moon was in a mood situations. My mechanic installed waterproofing. My neighbors installed snorkels. I installed regret. Annapolis also comes with DC area traffic, Maryland taxes, and tourists who block intersections while photographing buildings. The historic charm means historic plumbing, historic electrical, and historic repair bills. And if you're not into sailing culture, you'll be reminded constantly that you should be. The crabs are good, though. Can't argue with the crabs. It's October 2029. You're hosting a dinner party in your $600,000 colonial home. Someone glances out the window and mentions, casually, that the street is flooding again. Everyone nods like this is normal because it is now. Your guests finish their wine while water laps against the curb. By dessert, you're checking tide charts on your phone to see when your driveway will be accessible again. Would you buy a boat and a house just to make your commute work? Drop your answer below. Number 7. Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston is the darling of the where should we relocate conversation. Historic pastel homes, world-class restaurants, a downtown that makes you understand why people fought wars over this place. Median home price for $175,000, though the Battery and downtown can hit to dollars to $5 million easily. Charleston sells the fantasy of southern elegance without the guilt. Garden parties, shrimp and grits, architecture that Instagram was invented for. Every lifestyle magazine has ranked it as one of America's best cities. People move here for the vibes alone. Charleston is built on a peninsula between 2 rivers, with much of the city sitting at or below 10 feet elevation. The city experienced over 89 flood days in 2019, more than double the number from just a decade earlier. Sea level rise along the South Carolina coast is accelerating at approximately 3.5 millimeters per year. Combine that with Charleston's geography surrounded by water on 3 sides and you've got a city that's essentially playing defense against the ocean from every direction. An OA projects Charleston will see between 1 and 2.5 feet of sea level rise by 2050. But the city is already spending $1 billion on a Dutch Dialogue's flood mitigation plan. $2 billion. That's billion with a B. And experts say it might not be enough. Flood insurance in Charleston has become its own horror genre. Premiums in flood zones have increased 200 to 500% since FEMA updated its maps. Some historic downtown homes are paying $25,000, $40,000 annually for coverage. That's more than some people's mortgages. A Reddit local shared, "My house in Charleston flooded 3 times last year. Not from hurricanes, from afternoon rain and high tide happening at the same time. My flood insurance company sent me a Hallmark card that just said again, with a sad face emoji. Charleston summers are oppressive, humidity that melts your will to live. Palmetto bugs that southern for terrifying giant roaches, traffic on the bridges. That turns a 10-minute drive into 45 minutes, and tourists so many tourists that locals have developed a sixth sense for avoiding downtown between March and October. The food is worth it, though. I'll give them that. It's 2030. You finally saved enough for that dream Rainbow Row adjacent townhouse. The closing is next week. Your agent calls. FEMA just released new flood maps. Your property is now in a high-risk zone. Your insurance quote triples. The seller wants out. You're left holding a contract for a property that might be worth 40% less by the time you sign. Would you pay $500,000 for a house that comes with its own drainage pump? Be honest. Number 6, Galveston, Texas. Galveston has character. Faded Victorian homes. The seawall that's been protecting the city since the 1900 hurricane killed 8,000 people. Galveston markets itself as affordable beach. Living with history. Where else can you get a Gulf view and Victorian architecture? It's Houston's beach getaway. The Strand District is charming. And the hurricanes probably won't be that bad, right? Galveston is a barrier island with an average elevation of about 7 feet. That seawall everyone loves. It protects about a third of the island. But rest, hope, and prayers. The Texas coast is experiencing relative sea level rise of approximately 6.5 millimeters per year, one of the highest rates in the continental U.S. thanks to a combination of rising seas and land subsidence from groundwater extraction. Hurricane Ike in 2008 caused $30 billion in damage and put most of the island underwater. Since then, flood insurance rates have skyrocketed. Properties in high-risk zones are seeing premiums of $10,000, $25,000 annually. Some homeowners have seen their premiums increase by 400% in the last decade. And here's the kicker. Texas has no state income tax, which sounds great until you realize you're saving they're being eaten alive by flood insurance and the constant threat of hurricane season. From the depths of Reddit, I bought in Galveston for the vibes. Now, I own 3 dehumidifiers, a flood kit, and a therapist who specializes in climate anxiety. My neighbors talk about hurricanes like they're seasonal allergies. Oh, looks like Hernandez is forming in the Gulf. Better grab the plywood. Galveston also features brutal summer humidity, mosquitoes that hunt in packs, and beach water that's, let's call it murky. The tourist season overwhelms the island. Parking is a nightmare. And half the restaurants are either chains or tourist traps. Also, refineries. You can sometimes smell them when the wind blows wrong. Hurricane season 2029. A Category 3 is spinning in the Gulf. You're at Home Depot fighting over plywood. You've evacuated twice this year already. Your house is fine so far, but your car got flooded last time because you parked in the wrong spot. You wonder if your flood insurance will renew next year. They've already sent a letter about reevaluating risk profiles. Would you buy a beach house on a barrier island with an expiration date? Tell me you wouldn't even look. Number 5, Norfolk, Virginia. Norfolk has a lot going for it. The world's largest naval base, a revitalizing downtown. Median home prices around $185,000 affordable by East Coast standards. Plus, it's close to Virginia Beach without the tourist chaos. Norfolk positions itself as an up-and-coming city. Young professionals, military families, waterfront development. The kind of place that says invest now before prices go up. Real estate agents love the phrase undiscovered gem. Norfolk has a significant problem. It's sinking fast. The region is experiencing relative sea level rise of approximately 5.1 millimeters per year, nearly double the global average because the land is subsiding while the ocean rises. The city already floods during regular high tides in some neighborhoods. Not storm surges. Not king tides. Just Tuesday. High tide. Flood. An OAA categorizes Norfolk as one of the cities most vulnerable to sea level rise in the United States. The Navy is so concerned that they've invested billions in protecting the Norfolk Naval Station because when the military is worried about your flooding problem, you should probably be worried too. Flood insurance costs in Norfolk have increased by 250 to 400% in the past decade. Some homeowners in flood zones are paying $8,000, $15,000 annually. For a $285,000 house, that's an absurd percentage of your monthly costs going to please don't flood prayers. A Norfolk resident on Reddit. I've lived here my whole life. My grandparents' house used to flood rarely. My parents' house flooded sometimes. My house floods regularly. At this rate, my kids will need scuba certifications just to check the mail. Norfolk also features military traffic. Try getting anywhere when the base lets out, aging infrastructure, and a revitalization that's been almost there for 20 years. The summers are humid. The mosquitoes are hungry. And the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel will make you question your life choices during rush hour. It's 2030. Your up-and-coming neighborhood is now underwater neighborhood. The city has installed pumps, but they can't keep up during heavy rains and high tides simultaneously, which is happening more often. Your basement is flooded 4 times this year. Your home value has dropped 25%. The Navy is considering moving critical operations elsewhere. The neighborhood is getting quieter, and not in a good way. Would you buy a home where the US military is making contingency plans for rising water? That's not a subtle hit. Number 4. Key West, Florida. Key West is the end of the road, literally. The southernmost point in the continental US, Hemingway's Old Haunt, sunset celebrations, Jimmy Buffett vibes. Median home price is around $850,000, crazy, but it's paradise, right? Key West sells the ultimate. Escape fantasy, island life without leaving America, frozen drinks at sunset, streets named after presidents and poets. The kind of place where you can be completely unserious about everything and no one judges you. Key West has an average elevation of approximately 5 feet 5. The entire island chain is essentially a coral reef with pretensions. Sea level rise in the Florida Keys is occurring at approximately 3.9 millimeters per year, but the bigger issue is that there's literally nowhere to go. The Keys are narrow. When the water rises, you can't retreat inland, there is no inland. Flooding during king tides is now routine. Some streets in Key West are impassable during high tide events. That would have been unremarkable a generation ago. The county has begun managed retreat discussions, which is government speak for we might abandon some of this. Flood insurance in the Keys has become legendary. Some properties are paying $30,000, $50, zero annually for a homeowner's insurance policy on an $850,000 property. You might be looking at $75, zero $100,000 per year in combined coverage costs. That's not a typo. Reddit delivers. I own a bar. In Key West, my flood insurance costs more than my liquor license, my lease, and my employee wages combined. I am essentially renting a bar to pay for the privilege of owning a bar that might be underwater. It's very Hemingway, honestly. Key West also features brutal humidity, mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds, insane tourist crowds, everything costing 40% more because it has to be shipped in, and a drinking culture that makes functioning before noon socially awkward. Also, one road in, one road out. When everyone evacuates for a hurricane, it's a parking lot. Hurricane season 2029. A strong Cat 2 is approaching, mandatory evacuation. The overseas highway is gridlocked. You watch the storm coverage from a hotel in Miami, wondering if your $850,000 piece of paradise is being rearranged. The storm passes, you return minor damage. But the saltwater intrusion has ruined your ground floor. Insurance covers 60%. Your neighbor is selling, no buyers. Would you pay almost $1 million for a house with a 5-foot margin of error against the ocean? Comment your answer, but maybe sit down first. Number 3, St. Petersburg, Florida. St. Pete is the Instagram-friendly sibling of Tampa Bay. Murals everywhere, craft breweries. Sunny days 361 days a year they count. Median home price around $375,000, with waterfront significantly higher. St. Pete markets itself as the hip Florida option. Not as crazy as Miami, not as touristy as Orlando, not as old as most of Florida's reputation. Young professionals, artists, remote workers, they're all here. The real estate agents use words like vibrant and emerging. St. Petersburg sits on a peninsula with Tampa Bay on one side and the Gulf of Mexico on the other. Average elevation, 7 feet. Significant portions of the city are at or below 5 feet. Sea level rise in Tampa Bay is accelerating at approximately 3.5 millimeters per year. But the bigger concern is storm surge. A direct hit from a major hurricane could push 15 to 20 feet of water into downtown St. Petersburg. The city has never taken a direct hit from a major hurricane in the modern era, which means everyone has gotten comfortable with a threat they've never actually experienced after Hurricane Helene and Milton in 2024. Flood insurance rates in the Tampa Bay area exploded. One St. Pete resident posted on Reddit, "I moved here for the sunshine and murals. Now, I'm an amateur meteorologist who spends June through November in low-grade panic. My insurance tripled. My home value dropped, but the sunsets are still beautiful, so I just drink wine and watch the Gulf and try not to think about storm surge maps." St. Pete summers are punishing not just hot, but oppressively humid. Traffic on the bridges is brutal. Tampa Bay's water quality is improving. That's the polite way to say it was really bad. And the entire peninsula is built on fill and sand, which is fun things during earthquakes and sinkholes. September 2030, a category for hurricane is tracking toward Tampa Bay. This is the big one everyone has been dreading. You evacuate, but the highways are parking lots. From a hotel in Orlando, you watch storm surge simulations that show your neighborhood under 8 feet of water. The storm wobbles slightly north at the last second. You're spared. This time, you come home to a text from your insurance company, policy non-renewed. Would you buy a home on a peninsula surrounded by hurricane-vulnerable water? The sunsets better be spectacular. Number 2, New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans is not a city. It's a vibe. It's jazz, embankments, and second lines and architecture that makes your soul feel things. Median home price around $165,000, remarkably affordable for a city with this much character. New Orleans is intoxicating. You visit once and spend the rest of your life planning your return. The food alone is worth moving for. Mardi Gras, French Quarter, Garden District. It's the only city in America that truly feels like another country. New Orleans is a bowl, a literal bowl. Approximately 50% of the city sits below sea level. Some neighborhoods are 10 to 15 feet below the surface of the Mississippi River and Lake Pontchartrain. The only thing keeping 400,000 people dry is an elaborate system of pumps, levees, and engineering that requires constant maintenance and occasional prayer. Sea level rise in the Gulf Coast is accelerating at approximately 3.6 millimeters per year. But New Orleans has a bonus problem. It's sinking. Land subsidence is occurring at 5 to 10 millimeters per year in some areas. The city is playing a two-front war against rising seas and falling ground. Hurricane Katrina. I don't need to explain, but here's what people forget. The flood insurance crisis never really ended. Premiums have increased 300 to 600% since Katrina. Some homeowners are paying $15,000, $30,000 annually for flood coverage. The National Flood Insurance Program is billions in debt, and the storms keep coming. A New Orleans local on Reddit wrote, "My grandparents' house in Gentilly survived Katrina with 8 feet of water. Rebuilt. My parents' house in Lakeview took 10 feet, rebuilt. I bought in the Marigny at elevation for feet below sea level. At this point, we're not homeowners, we're temporary occupants between floods." But the gumbo is still perfect, so New Orleans also features oppressive humidity, mosquitoes that have their own zip codes, crime rates significantly above national average, and infrastructure that was designed in the 1800s and maintains that energy. The pumping system is constantly breaking down. Every heavy rain is an adventure, and the termites, the Formosan termites, are basically organized crime. Also, the potholes could swallow a Fiat. August 2029. A hurricane that looks eerily like Katrina is forming in the Gulf. You know the drill. You've evacuated 5 times in the last 4 years. This time feels different. You sit in a Houston hotel watching coverage. The storm turns slightly east. Missed you. But the 100,000 people in Houma weren't so lucky. You returned to your city. Your house is fine. Your nerves are not. Your insurance company sent a letter. Premium increase 40%. You wonder how many more close calls you can afford. Would you bet your financial future on pumps, levees, and hope? The food's incredible, but so is the risk. Number 1. MIMI, Florida. The big one. America's playground. Global City Energy. Art Basel. Crypto Brothers. Beachfront everything. Median home price around $590,000, with waterfront condos easily breaking to dollars to 10 million. Miami is the only major American city that feels like you're somewhere else entirely. The beaches, the weather, the international food scene, the nightlife, the way the real estate industry acts like sea level rise isn't happening because look at that view. Miami has attracted tech companies, remote workers, climate refugees from cold states, and international wealth looking for stable investment. Billions of dollars in real estate development are happening right now in 2024 on land that will be underwater within decades. Let's start with the basics. Miami-Dade County's average elevation is about 6 feet. Large portions of Miami Beach aren't for to 5 feet. Brickell and downtown Miami sit on land that was literal swamp a century ago. Miami. Sea level rise along the South Florida coast is accelerating at approximately 3.9 millimeters per year. An OAS intermediate projection suggests 10 to 17 inches of rise by 2040 and 21 to 54 inches by 2060. But the impacts are already here. Sunny day flooding affects Miami Beach regularly during king tides. Streets flood with seawater during high tide on clear days. No rain. No storm. Just the ocean showing up uninvited. Here's the terrifying part. Miami is built on porous limestone. You can't just build a seawall and call it done. The water comes up, through the ground, through the foundation. You can't engineer your way out of porous rock. The ocean is essentially below your feet, waiting. Flood insurance in Miami has become apocalyptic. Some Miami Beach properties are paying $40,000, $75,000 annually for coverage. Florida's Citizens Property Insurance. The insurer of last resort has seen enrollment triple in recent years because private insurers are fleeing the state. Some homeowners simply cannot get insurance at any price. Home values in flood-prone areas have already started declining relative to inland properties. A 2023 study found that Miami properties with high flood risk are selling at 5 to 10% discounts, compared to similar properties with lower risk. That gap will only widen, and developers, they're still building high-rises, condos, luxury developments. Because the profit is now and the flood is later, someone else's problem, just not theirs. Reddit's voice of reason. I sold my Miami Beach condo last year. Took a 15% loss. Best financial decision I ever made. My insurance was $42,000 annually. My building's flood mitigation assessment was $85,000 per unit. The guy who bought my place is from Toronto and thought I was being dramatic. Check back in 2030, friend. Beyond the water problem, Miami features brutal traffic, insane cost of living, humidity that makes you question reality, crime rates above national average, a housing market completely detached from local wages, and a political establishment that has largely refused to acknowledge the severity of the climate crisis. Also, iguanas. They fall from trees when it gets cold. This is real. And hurricanes. Miami hasn't taken a direct hit from a major hurricane since Andrew in 1992, which means an entire generation of residents has no concept of what a Cat 4 or Cat 5 does to a coastal city. When none of a major hurricane makes landfall in Miami, the damage will be measured in hundreds of billions, and the insurance industry might not survive it. It's 2030. You bought that Brickell condo in 2025 because Miami was the future. The sunset views were unbeatable. But now, your building's basement floods during every king tide. The Condo Association just passed a $150,000 special assessment for flood mitigation. Your insurance, if you can even get it, is $50,000 annually. Private buyers won't touch the building. Your only potential buyers are foreign investors who want the land value, not the structure. You check the sea level monitors. The tide is coming and out again. You look at your balcony, at that $1,000,000 view of Biscayne Bay, and realize you're not looking at the ocean. The ocean is looking at you, and it's patient. Would you invest your life savings in the city most likely to be America's first climate casualty? Because millions of people already did, and 2030 is 6 years away. So, there you have it. While the brochures promise endless summers, the flood maps promise something very different. We just walked through 10 cities where the tide is literally turning against homeowners. If you're sitting on a coastal property or still dreaming of buying one, my advice: don't just trust the view, trust the data. The market is shifting, and in some of these zip codes, the water is rising faster than the property values. If this reality check helped you see past the fresh paint and staging, hit that like button. It helps the channel stay afloat. And make sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss our next video where we'll talk about the places that are actually safe to invest in for 2030. I want to hear from you. Is a waterfront view worth the risk? Or are you heading for the hills? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Stay smart, and more importantly, stay dry.